An introduction to this top 5, I just wanted to quote some of the improvements that we brought in 24.1, which failed to reach the top 5, but which are worth being mentioned. So for this, let me just expose them into our Altair how-to channel from HyperWorks 24.1 release highlights. You will see here a couple of videos introducing the news. As for new versions, there's one video related to automation and customization, including the latest Python improvements. If you're dealing with explicit solvers and solvers in general, by the way, because it's also available for implicits, you will be interested into this mass balance overview. What is this mass balance overview? It's reintroduction of a tool that was previously available but not accurate for solvers, and it allows the automatic distribution of mass node properties and also target center of gravity. So it is available for OptiStruct, Nastran, Abacus, Radius, LS-Dyna, and PalmCrush. So if you want more detail about it, please feel free to review this video. We have also one video which is dedicated to the composites, and in which you will find a new entity which is called the sequence, which allow to make easier the definition of a laminate as soon as you have a large number of plays, because if you have repeated pattern, you will be able to use sequence as an intermediate entity, let's say, in order to organize your laminate. So hope these few videos can help here. Let's start with top 5 with two features which are related to HyperMesh, but which are not in core functions. The first one is this blue icon. If you open it, you will have access to our Altair Copilot beta version. I did some tests here, but I will ask some questions again. This is a chatbot we integrated in HyperMesh from a couple of versions. First, for internal use in order to teach him or to get it learn. And then we expose it first as a beta version in 24.1. It may not be available if your company is restrictive in the URL that are whitelisted. We decided for 24.1 not to expose yet the URL. This will surely come with 25. In the meantime, if you have access to it, you just have to ask question how to examine a complex part, and this chatbot will parse our internal references. This includes our online help, the transcripts of the videos available in our Altair how-to channel, and all the contents available in the Altair community. It will quote for your questions the 3 most relevant articles. There's a dedicated webinar that was hosted by one of our colleagues that I will put as a link into the description of the video. So feel free to refer to it if you need if you want more information about it. Just one extra information, because it's frequently asked. It does not support yet scripting, which means you cannot yet ask how to code a Python script for HyperMesh HyperView, but this is something that is in the pipe. As a second feature, and this one is interesting mostly for people who are in the process of migrating from our old user interface from the new user interface. If you go to documentation, you can search for, or you can directly go to the tool finder, and we introduced what we call the interactive tool finder. It looks like the old GUI from the HTML, and whatever you go for, you will have access. You will see for one function what is the equivalent in the new UI. This includes both the panel and the drop-down menus. Hope that can help. Let's talk about some usability improvements with 24.1. As a starter, there were many tools which, or there are many tools which invoke what we call the micro dialogue. So here, for instance, this tool, and frequently this tool can be located at a location where it's not convenient for you. From 24.1, we introduced an option into the preferences. You can find in preferences, you can search for micro, and it is the lock macro dialog position, which means now if you have to create a new point again, the micro dialog will be that position again. If you change from tool and say that you want to translate, the micro dialog will be positioned this way. So every tool which invokes this kind of micro dialog, they will always be locked at the same position. Another change regarding the usability is about the split and stitch tool. So back in the previous version, we had two different tools with different sub-icons in order to access different tools. In order to harmonize and consolidate these tools, we decided from 24.1 to gather them at a unique location. So it's under topology, split stitch, and you now have access to the different tools. For existing keyboard settings, we cannot, let's say, use S or EU keyboards because it's used elsewhere, especially S is used to switch between solids, surfaces, set segments, sets. So you see here that you can switch between every split and stitch operation using the T, and if instead you want to unsplit or unsuppress, you can use the N to unsuppress, and upper T if you want to suppress for any reason, or you can just hit this way. And then you can select what you want to deal with. Here you can either select and use the mouse to select, or you can also turn between line, surface edges, surfaces, and what you want to trim. So here you would like, for instance, to trim this surface from this line, pretty easy behavior, and trim. So same behavior about that with this stem. If you want to stitch, you just have to move to stitch, and then you can stitch again as you were able to do it in the past. So you can just either take the edges or the two surfaces to be stitched together, and that's done. As it comes to stitch, you can also see that now you can directly switch between surface edges or surfaces, which reduces your choice. In the past, it could be selected automatically by HyperMesh based on the tolerance. So if you prefer to work on edges, then it is better to switch to surface edges. If you are selecting surface instead, you will have to point to your surfaces. So feel free to use what's the best for you. But here surface edges could be a good compromise to get things done, as you can see here. Another improvement that we brought for usability is related to implicit profiles, so at least OptiStruct, Nastran, and Abacus. It is related to the find attached. When you go to the find attached tool, especially for Abacus from 2023, 3, we had the possibility to include constraints when searching for attached entity and rigid elements. What we added in 24.1, which we had for a long time for explicit profile, so we just harmonized with explicit profile, it's the capability to include tie contact. So if I look at this model, there are here some parts which are connected only by tie contact. So if I look at just this component and I say isolate, and I want to check all the parts that are connected, either with rigid constraints, so kinematic couplings for Abacus, for instance, or distributed couplings, or tie contact, I can just select this one, and as I have the automatic button here, all the parts that are connected either way are shown. So this is really a must-have tool in order to check properly the connectivity of your model. The main changes for 24.1 are related to connectors. First one is about connectors visualization, and you will quickly notice if you used connectors that the display of connectors here, spot welds, slightly changed. This was done on purpose in order to improve performances for cases where the model includes a large number of connectors. And by speaking about a large number of connectors, we're speaking about something like several thousands of connectors where we experienced some performance drops. So this has been fixed with 24.1. Another improvement in 24.1 is about the fastener, and especially the fastener connector control. We decided to consolidate, which means to simplify the list of realization available in order to gather them by main types. So if you go to the online help, you will see what are the different methods available between clip, cylinder, and every time you will have access to the information about which solver profiles are available, some information about how you can create it. So it could be whole, it could be rigid patch. Every time you will have information, and information or realization type of element will be available directly in the different options of the connector control. So you can select whether it is Air-Link, Rigid Link, ABU2, C-bar, C-beam element, C-bush, or whatever, depending on which solver profile you are working with. So the target here is really to streamline and to help the users to choose in as shortly as possible the best modeling method for his fastener approach. Let me now focus on a specific area in order to show one of the improvements and probably the major improvements for 24.1 for connectors. So these connectors here, if I go to the connector controls, they are spot welds with a realization which is called spring rigid in OptiStruct, and whose realization allows the creation of property and material based on specific computation, taking into account material and also the parts, the original part attributes. So depending on the thickness of the connected part, the stiffness of one of the elements will evolve. In the past, once you had your connector realized, you had to, if you wanted to change the thickness of one of the parts, you had to unrealize your connectors, then realize them again in order to update the stiffness value. With 24.1, you now have access to a preference, which is under, so if you look for connector, you see under general, you have this physical change, calculation change. Physical change is about the location of the connectors. Calculation change is if you change anything which is related to the connector, material, property attributes. And you can choose either to do nothing, to check the modify, to unrealize the connector, to realize it again, or to update it. Realize will redo the connection without changing the attributes of property and materials if existing. Update will update everything. So let me set to update. And let me have a look at one property, which is this rivet property. You can see here that you have 68, 30, 30. Now let me go to this thickness and change it to something like 6. So you see HyperMesh did something in the background, and if you go back to the rivet, you will see that now the values have been automatically updated to consider this change. So this will affect, or this will be available for any realization, which includes computation, stiffness computation, or material definition of the connection based on the part input attributes. The main update in 24.1 concerns HyperView, and especially the outputs format from HyperView, so what we call the 3D model. In the previous version, you were only able to export each 3D model, which could be reloaded either in HyperView player, either as standalone or embedded in a presentation, or directly in HyperView. From version 2025, 4.1, sorry, we introduce two different formats. So the H3D remains, and we call it the rich view just for the sake of distinguishables. And we have a new format, which is a light view, which is a GLB format. So GLB format is quite a standard for 3D visualization. It's used for many applications, and we allow it for export in HyperMesh. Light means that we won't export all information if you're using this light export. The purpose of the light view is really to be able to share quickly data such as deformation, animation, and a contour with not all the architecture, all the dependencies. So several functions won't be available, such as a query, for instance. And the opposite, rich view, is intended to be shared and for your colleagues to get more insight to the results, including tools such as notes, section cuts, or query tools. How to read each format? For the light view, as I will show it later, you can use directly a 3D viewer on your computer in order to review it. The one you can download from Windows app, either Windows 10 or Windows 11, or you can embed it in PowerPoint or Doc thanks to Microsoft Office Base Viewer. Regarding the H3 view, we keep the option of viewing directly the H3 file in HyperView player, or to keep it embedded in a PPT or doc. But from 24.1, we also allow the capability of directly embedding it into an HTML page that can be read in any browser, web browser. So let's have a look at it. Let me open one model. And just for the sake of showing some distinction between both, let me create a hotspot. So I will review my hotspots. So here, as I'm reviewing the hotspots, they're not hard, let's say, in cache. They are not hard-coded, they are not saved. So what I need to do first is to review my results and to create notes for these 3 items. So let me create the notes. And now I can escape. And I will first export it 3D as a GLB model, 3D model, GLB. You see that you have a small list of information, including results and animation. So if I export it, it will open by default in the Windows 3D viewer, and launching. Let me try again. Something probably went wrong. Export 3D model. 3D model GLB export. Let me change the name. 3D model 2. Live effect. And here you see the animation. You can obviously pan your model. You can zoom in, zoom out, apply some shading, apply some lights. But it's mostly a visualization tool. And again, very light, very portable. Instead, you can decide to go for the full mode. So export 3D model again, HTML. So here with the H3D, all information again, and you can click on export. Yes, I want to export it. In doing so, first you can notice that obviously as you export more information, it contains more data, so it takes more time to proceed. And you will notice as soon as we get the file completed that we have access to all the tools. So first you retrieve the query information, and then you have access to your model. You can decide, for instance, to hide some parts. So if you get access to your hierarchy here, you can select a part, let me pick a part and decide to hide it. You can choose deformation. You can see the table query for the min max. So any of the standard tools that are already available in HyperView, add a section cut. So everything that you want, but this time embed in any web browser, so no compatibility issue at all. Thanks for reviewing.